Hey everyone, this is Anthony and welcome back to my podcast. So there's been a lot happening in these last couple of weeks with deportations, and some of the reactions I've been seeing online are honestly very disappointing. Just the division that I've been seeing between Black and Latino communities around this issue is something that's very concerning and very sad. We have been seeing that Latinos are getting deported left and right under Trump, and I've been seeing a disturbing trend online where some Black creators are saying things like, "This is what y'all voted for, this is what you get, this is not my fight." All of this as if every single Latino in America unanimously decided to support Trump and asked for this to happen. Something that is often not mentioned by these Black creators is that 56% of Latinos actually voted for Kamala. So that's already false. But even beyond that, a lot of the people that are getting deported never had a say in this in the first place because they don't get to vote. But instead of acknowledging that, I see some people are using this moment as an opportunity to instead point fingers when they should be focusing on real issues. At the same time, I'm also really disappointed in my own community. More Latinos voted for Trump this time around, and I just don't get it. When Obama ran, who many people forget was known as the Deporter-in-Chief because he removed more immigrants than any other president in history. But to say that when Obama ran, Latinos supported him in much higher numbers. So what actually changed, and why are we now turning on each other instead of actually focusing on the bigger fight? I know that we are stronger together, and history proves that when marginalized communities unite, we can get somewhere. History has proven this. Black Panthers worked alongside Latino activists. Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta fought for justice of all workers, and civil rights movements have always been their strongest when communities of color uplifted each other. But now we're just letting Trump and politicians and media narratives divide us, and that's what they want. So one thing I keep seeing is this idea that Latinos didn't support or show up for Kamala because she's a Black woman. Now look, I'm not going to deny that racism exists within the Latino community. It absolutely does. I've seen it. I've been in the past friends with people who are Latinos who would make remarks about Black people that really would upset me because racism does exist. And colorism also exists. That's why within the Latino community itself, Latinos who are lighter skinned, who have certain features or even eye color are seen as better by their own Latinos. So I'm sure there are some voters who had an issue with the fact that Kamala was Black. But let's be real. That could not be the only reason, because if Latinos were so against voting for a Black person, then how would you explain why an overwhelming number of them voted for Obama? In fact, in 2008, 67% of Latinos voted for Obama. And then in 2012, that number actually went up to 71%. So obviously Latinos will vote for a Black candidate if they believe in what they stand for. So if it's not just about race, then what happened? Why did more Latinos shift towards Trump this time? And I think there are a couple of reasons. From one, sexism, because let's not pretend that a lot of men, especially in conservative spaces, they do not like women in power. Also, misinformation. Trump and his people know how to manipulate Latino voters. They flooded Spanish language media with propaganda especially in Florida and Texas. There's also religious reasons. Many Latinos are deeply religious, and Trump preyed on that, making them believe that voting for Kamala meant voting against their faith because of issues like abortion or gay issues and being anti-trans. Then there's also this illusion about the American dream that so many Latinos fall for that idea because they did it the right way. And so if they did it that way, then other people should. And this is how they divide us. When they don't realize that the system is broken and that the system is not fair as they think it is. Trump's branding also made people believe that he's good for jobs, for small business and the economy. These are the promises he made, but we know that he's a liar. And we are seeing that he's not actually doing anything for those things during his first 2 weeks. But here's the thing. Yes, Trump gained more Latino voters, but the majority did not support him. The majority supported Kamala. As I mentioned, 56% of Latinos voted for Kamala. And yet, the people that are getting deported, they did not vote. So why are we blaming them for the actions of a few? I get why Black people are frustrated. It feels like they always show up for other communities, but when it's time for others to support the Black community, there's silence. And in some cases, yes, they're right. I've also seen Latinos who are anti-Black, who didn't show up for Black Lives Matters, who don't care about the struggles of the Black community. So yes, I agree. It's real. It does happen. But let me ask you, how does meeting hate with more hate or indifference actually help? During the height of Black Lives Matter, plenty of Latinos did show up. They marched, they protested, they spoke out. And it's not because they were expecting anything in return, but because it was the right thing to do. And now when Latino families are being torn apart, when children are being torn apart, when children are being targeted by ICE invading churches and schools, the reaction from some Black content creators is not my problem. If we're going to talk about who shows up for who, let's be honest, neither community is perfect. There are Latinos who don't care about the Black struggle, just like there are Black people who don't care about the Latino immigration issues and struggle. But instead of actually fighting for each other, or fighting each other, why aren't we fighting the actual people in power who are making life difficult for both communities? Historically, we've always been stronger together. Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, they all understood that power comes from unity. And they knew that the system wants us to be divided. And yet here we are, some of us, playing right into that. Trump built his entire immigration policy on a huge lie, and that's that the undocumented immigrants are criminals. He called them rapists, murderers, drug dealers, and he makes it sound like every single person crossing the border is here to destroy America, to take away from Americans, and to endanger America. But the truth is that being undocumented is not a criminal offense. It's a civil violation, like a violation of overstaying a visa, which somehow Trump has nothing to say about it. Maybe because his own one of many wives committed the same, in quotation marks, crime. But Trump has convinced his supporters that it makes someone a criminal. And now we're seeing the consequences of that. Because ICE is targeting people without any proof that they have actually committed a crime. People are being deported regardless of it. And Trump supporters don't care. To them, if you weren't born here or did it the right way, you're a criminal, period. And meanwhile, Trump, a convicted felon himself, is out here pardoning people who literally tried to overthrow the government. Now, this goes beyond just immigration because We're seeing that as part of Trump's first 2 weeks, he's been dismantling DEI programs, getting rid of funds that are important to different communities, such as Black History Month, banning pride flags for government buildings, and now even refusing to acknowledge Holocaust Remembrance Day. When they asked Trump's press secretary about Black History Month and whether it would be continued to be observed, she said, Americans will be recognized regardless of their race, religion, or origins. That sounds right. That sounds nice, right? You would think. But what it really means is we're going to erase anything that doesn't acknowledge marginalized communities. And people are falling for it. It's just like that quote. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and then there was no one left to speak for me. Right now, they're coming for immigrants. And if you think that stops there, you're not paying attention. We're letting politicians and media narratives divide us instead of focusing on the ones who are making these decisions, the ones in power, and people are blaming each other. At the end of the day, we need one another. Latinos, Black people, immigrants, the LGBTQ plus community, even though Trump wants it to just be LGB and get rid of the trans, but there is no LGBTQ plus without our trans brothers and sisters and non-binary people. Every marginalized group in this country is important. And if we don't stand together, we make it easy for people in power to keep winning. History shows that unity is how we win. We should not be divided because that's how they keep control. So if you think this isn't my fight, ask yourself, how long until it is? Thank you so much for joining my podcast. And again, as I always end, be kind to yourself and to one another. And until next time.